Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you as always for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com On3. Now with On3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football. Pete Nakos, Jamie Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side. And the local coverage from Alec Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there. Sign up today.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world,
three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Ayla's gone. Goodbye, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. Glad to have you along from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Joined now by Jamie Shaw from On3. How are you, sir?
Jim, man, I'm doing great. I hope that you are.
If I was any better, I'd be Jamie Shaw.
Man, I'll tell you what, every time I come on this show and I see that vodka distillery, man, those flavors are just through the roof, man. That cinnamon one, the toasted coconut. It's like, wow, it's 9 a.m. where I'm at, but, that's a good commercial.
I appreciate it, man. They're a great sponsor. Hard Truth, they're the greats, man. We're fortunate it's right down the road, so when you ever make it up this way to visit Steve Wiltfong or somebody, love to stop in and pay a visit.
Without question.
How's everything going with you, my friend?
It's busy. It's busy. We went
Yes,
straight from
it
the high
is.
school season to the transfer portal. Now we're back to AAU and all that type of stuff. So it's always something.
The AAU season, I saw I can't remember who said this, but a coach the other day said you're better off not going to a single AAU event. And what was the statement? I forget. It had to do with the portal, basically, though. And
it was in the article I wrote the other day. A Big Ten coach made the statement that they are better.
Now you know I read your stuff, brother.
They are better served having meetings with 3 or 4 different agents than they are going to a live period event.
That's it. That was it. Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. It's just, but it's, I say that all the time because it's true. I asked a question the other day. I said, what's the point of even recruiting freshmen now, to be honest with you? Because A, you're going to have to recruit them again as sophomores. And B, we look at Kurt Signetti, who flipped Indiana football. That's a crazy story, but was able to flip Indiana football from being a walking corpse to a preeminent program, at least for the moment. And he did it by just doing that same thing, by getting the guys he needed. Now they are recruiting for the future. He's got I see a lot of 26, 27 guys. I know we're talking about football, but it doesn't matter. It's the same deal, although you've got less room on a basketball roster to carry that.
Well, for sure. Ideally, roster continuity is ideal, and that hasn't gone away within the college landscape. College coaches want to bring in younger players, get them in their system, and ultimately keep them year over year over year using the transfer portal to kind of, put the bandages over the holes, so to speak. So ideally, getting the younger players, the high school kids, the freshman transfers, guys that have multiple years in your system following, that they come in, they have a good experience, and that's how you kind of build a roster with continuity year over year. Does that happen? Less and less nowadays. But ideally, that's the mold that college coaches tell me, at least, they prefer.
Yeah, and I would think so. I mean, it makes sense to, especially in Indiana, I think, because there's always going to be some elite players. There's going to be a couple in this state specifically every year. There always is, there always will be. And why not get those guys? Because but like if they're not a Cooper Flag, they're probably not going to be an impact player. But getting them into your program is probably a lot easier to recruit them from within the program than outside of the program.
For sure, you have a whole lot more, but also too with that, they get a year in your system. They get a year to learn how to go to classes and do all that while still learning how to, study how to be a student athlete as well. Get to learn also your system, what's expected of them on the court, what's expected of them off the court, what's expected of them within the defensive scheme, within the offensive scheme, where they should be on the court, within the flow of the offense and all that type of stuff too. So getting them early, learning, teaching, they learn your methods and everything too. They break bad habits, get into your habits, and then keeping them the next year and the next year as they continue to grow throughout the process. It's the ideal way that college coaches would like to, prefer to build a roster.
Yeah, and we see the things continue to change, and hopefully one day we'll have guardrails on some of these things, and mainly the transfer portal. A lot of fans, they'll complain about NIL, and I'm like, NIL is not going anywhere. It is not going anywhere, and there's going to be little to no change with it, in my opinion, because the rev share is going to be the rev share, and that will have quote unquote guardrails, if you want to call it that, because it's a set number that they'll have to give out. But NIL is actually separate from that, and I think people confuse that. Name, image, likeness is not revenue sharing, and name, image, likeness can be whatever. There is no limit, and you can't limit. This is America. You can't limit someone's ability to make money.
For sure, and that's the idea. And like you said, the name, image, and likeness, that's just a normal commercial. That's a brand deal. That's something that a brand or a something comes in and they feel that this person will help make them money. So they put their name, their brand behind the certain individual. Let's just say hypothetically Reed Bailey coming to Indiana next year. Let's say your distillery wants to sponsor Reed Bailey. Every time Reed Bailey is seen, hopefully the distillery's idea is that it conjures thoughts of their brand within the player. Name, image, and likeness is here. College basketball is a multi-billion-dollar industry, has a lot of viewership on it. Even a random Tuesday night game has a lot of viewership on it. Then when you get to March Madness, it's nonstop eyeballs, nonstop impressions, nonstop revenue possibilities. So just like you said, name, image, and likeness is something that is great that it's here, and with big opportunities involved.
And we'll continue to see that become a part of things as it's going to be interesting to see how, if there is change when rev share becomes a thing. It will. We know that actually we're waiting for the approval, and the only thing holding that up is the existence of today's walk-ons. The judge wants to make sure they're grandfathered in to keep their walk-on spot until they graduate from right now. I guess it's kind of like when we went through COVID. Man, it seemed like it took forever to get through that stupid COVID cycle.
Well, and that was a big thing, too, that came. A lot of the stuff we saw in the transfer portal, initially it was supposed to happen on April 7th, which was right in the middle of the transfer portal. So you saw a lot of guys that were, I don't want to say rushing, but they were quick to get their deals done because they wanted to, again, be grandfathered in throughout when it came to signing their NIL stuff with collectives and everything. But as you're saying, it got pushed back. The judge wanted to come back with some different wording involved and all that. So, who knows? Every single year that we've had this, it's kind of just been shooting from the hip with college coaches. As I sit there and talk to them daily, they don't know what it's going to look like in next month, 2 months from now, let alone a year from now. So just trying to adapt to the best you possibly can every single day.
Yeah, that's all you can do, because when I see people, or a lot of people still complaining about it, oh, it's ruined this. I'm like, well, not really ruined anything. And well, if it's NCAA is powerless, people. They have no power. It's the courts that are making these decisions. So, and some of these are decisions that probably should have been made a long time ago and could have been implemented, and it would have maybe come along at a little slower pace instead of just the dam breaking, and it's like the water has just flooded the town. And that's what it's been like, because it's such a massive change. But the transfer portal itself has made college basketball and football better, in my opinion. Now, that doesn't mean I like the ability to just go wherever you want, whenever you want, year after year. I don't. I think that that's something that if they could get their handle on, that would change things greatly. But the portal itself has made both sports better.
For sure. I think when you look at it, what it has done across the P4, I guess in basketball, P4 in the Big East, the power conferences, it's given a whole lot more parity throughout the top level of the sports. Football the same, the P4 conferences in football, it seems to be the talent is so much more spread out now throughout the power conferences. And I think you are going to see a lot of parity at the top.
And that's what we saw last year. And that's why there was so much talk with the NCAA tournament. But views were up, ratings were up, people enjoyed the games. They wanted to see those top teams playing each other. Upsets are nice. Upsets are nice for about 30 seconds. Legitimately. When that was so cool. Well, now you've got this team playing against that team, then they go get waxed or something like that. It's cool for a second, but the games last year were pretty intriguing.
Well, when I talk to my buddies, I sit there and look around, and they all want to see the best go against the best. It's cool the first couple of rounds to watch a Cinderella run, a team, an unheralded, a double-digit seed make it to the Sweet 16. But at the end of the day, the people that I talk to, the fans, they want to see the best against the best. They want to see the big names they've been hearing about all year go head-to-head against the circles that I was kind of talking in and stuff, the fans I was talking to, the people I'm around. That was the biggest thing of this past NCAA tournament. Why they were tuned in so heavily is because you had 4 number 1 seeds. The teams that were the top 4 teams coming into the tournament won each round, and they were able to duke it out in San Antonio to see who the truly best team in the country was. And I think that brought a lot of excitement. I think also moving forward, that's something that you're going to see a whole lot more of, where those top seeds continue to really stack talent, and you're going to have a lot of talented players going across those top seeded teams at the top of the sport.
I agree, and you don't know who's going to be the top of the sport. Right now, we see a lot of Purdue, because they're one of the only teams that anybody knows kind of what they're going to look like, because you've got that core back. You don't have to worry about the transfer portal. They're like one of the only ones. So a lot of people are putting them up at the top, not just because of that, but they've got a lot of talent coming back, obviously, with Fletcher Lawyer and Kaufman Wren. It sounds like a law firm every time I say it. The firm of Kaufman, Wren, Smith, and Lawyer. But I don't think – I talk about this all the time as well. You have to have a first-round draft pick on your roster, minimum of 1, if not 2, to win a national championship. It's a fact. It's happened that way. I don't know how many years in a row it's been that way. It goes way back. They, in my opinion, do not have a first-round draft pick. I don't think Braden Smith can work his way into the first round, but I could be wrong. I am not a GM. I just don't think I don't think he has got the physical skills that's going to allow him to be a first rounder. But again, I'm not a GM.
For sure. And I think you kind of saw that last year too. They were coming off having Zach Edey. They rode an early wave. Once they got into Big Ten play, people kind of caught up to them and figured them out. Now they added Oscar Clough throughout this offseason. They have roster continuity going from year over year, like you said, Foster Lawyer, or the Lawyer brother, Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Wren, all coming back. You add Oscar Clough, who's one of the most efficient players in college basketball last year as a big man, and they're getting kind of back to it. But, I think as you saw last year, people caught up to what they were doing in the Big Ten last year, and they kind of went on a little late season skid as they kind of stumbled into the NCAA tournament with it. But with that said, a coach told me a couple years ago, you either need to have 2 lottery picks or you have to have a roster filled with overseas pros. And when they say filled, that's not just 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that are going to have good, solid overseas careers to make a Final Four on your roster. And I think that still continues to be said for this day. To your point, you got to have pros. Pros win, even at the college level.
Yeah, without question, because that talent comes down, especially when you get down to the end, the Final Four, pressure's ramped up, the atmospheres are great, so you have to be able to withstand all of that, and we'll see how that goes forward. Indiana, Darren DeVries building his roster slowly, but it is coming together. They are 10 deep now from the portal, it looks like, and we have a very good idea of what this team is going to look like. As he has recruited specific players and guys that fit into a box for the most part, but 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" wings. That is the gist of his players. Of course, he's added a lot of guards, but some of these guards I think he's got guys that can play the 1 to the 3 and the 2 to the 4. And that is the difference in what he's doing. He's got a lot of interchangeable parts. A lot of us were still wondering, okay, well, when are you going to add the big, or how's he going to handle that? That is the next question for me. I'm wondering, what's he going to do with that spot? Because obviously this team is going to be one that shoots the ball, that gets up and down the floor. They're going to play defense, but it's not going to be what Indiana fans have been used to seeing for the last several years, running the ball through the post and all that.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think right now what they have is a very intriguing base of a roster. I think you look at the point guard position with Tate Conaway coming in, what he's able to do to heat the ball up and make some winning plays at the point of attack. I think through the 2 through the 4, you have guys that are positionless almost, guys who can make a play with the ball in their hand. They can switch. They can shoot the ball. They can dribble, shoot, and pass all through the 2 through 4 and kind of have that continuity type of offense run, being able to both guard and make a play on the offense. And kind of on the block, you don't have a true post type of guy, but what you have is a guy in Reed Bailey who can make a play with the ball in his hands as well. So you have 5 guys on the court who you can put the ball in their hand. They can make a read. They can make a pass. They can make a shot. They can dribble, get to their spots in the half court as well. So there's a lot of positional fluidity going on within this team that could allow for some very fun, quick-hitting motion type offense for Darian DeVries, where he can attack you from different spots on the floor, different levels, at all 5 positions.
The latest the commitment coming in with Josh Harris, the forward from North Florida, another solid piece. A 6'8" guy, but he's a strong 6'8". He is not your typical – they're 6'8" and they're 6'8". He's a 6'8" that plays bigger, it seems like.
For sure. So he made his mark this year at North Florida, 10 feet in. He moves great off the ball. He's an off-ball cutter, gets to his spots. He's able to finish through contact, left hand, right hand at the basket. But his consistent movement gets him in a lot of positive positions. Like you said, great length. He's very strong. He's got good size, a little bit of pop in him too, athletically. But his instincts are kind of where he found his production at. And continuing that moving forward, finding his way within the flow of an offense, finding his way to be able to get to his open spots in the court and, continue to put pressure on the defense around the basket.
Yeah, and Darren DeVries continues to add guys like this that have these solid numbers. They're not numbers that jump off of the page at you, but they're all solid. Jason Drake, I had him on the other day. That guy shot nearly 40% from behind the arc last year. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, when you add him with somebody, like Wilkerson and all that, I mean, you're getting shooting, you're getting spacing, being able to space the floor. That's the dream of what a guy like a Josh Harris has, is because when the floor is spaced, when you have a whole bunch of opening in the paint, he's able to flash and find open spots for himself to be able to be advantageous within the teeth of the defense. But you have the shooting, you have the playmaking, you have guys who can defend at the point of attack, and you have bigs like a Reed Bailey who can make a play extended from the basket. And you could run offense off of him as a central type of hub. There's a lot of variations on this offense. There's a lot of continuity. There's a lot of fluidity that you can have within this offense of bigs playing out, forwards playing inside, guys being able to shoot, and interchangeability with it. I guess in football they call it being multiple. On the basketball court, this team is filled with guys that are able to be multiple.
Yeah, a lot of interchangeables, and that goes along with Connor Enright and Tucker DeVries, Lamar Wilkerson, Tate and Conaway, which you've already mentioned, and I mentioned Jason Drake and Nick Dorn. A lot of intriguing pieces, man. It's going to be very interesting to see how these guys come together.
For sure. And I think what you have is a nice little mixture of older and younger guys, too. So you have the younger guys like a Harris, Nick Dorn. You have Josiah Miles that have multiple years in there, but then you have the Conaways and DeVries, Baileys, that are coming in with 1 year left. So you have a potential 10-man rotation of fluid players that are both for the now and for the future, of being able to truly build a program. I think when we first talked when I was in the airport, and DeVries had just got named the job like a week in. He didn't have anybody on the roster yet. We talked about what it was going to look like. I think now, a couple weeks later, we're starting to see as to what he wants his team to look like, how we can kind of envision his team playing. But not only that, the future of the program. They have guys that are going to be here for multiple years as to where they can earn their minutes this year, learn what they have, and then next year step into the roles of being the star-type players. So I think this has been a very, very successful portal haul. When you want to look on the outside, now obviously they have to get on the court and they have to play, but looking at the roster build, how you can envision what it is that DeVries wants to do with his team and kind of how his teams are going to look moving forward.
Yeah, and in talking to some of the players that I've been able to talk to, they love his vision. That's every one of them mention it, or whether it's in interviews. I see them mentioning that. Man, I loved they love what he is wanting to do. So when you've got the players buying into it like that already as a whole, that's a good step. And so it's going to be exciting. I think Indiana fans are going to have a blast watching the team regardless. Now, the big question is, what's he going to do with that 5 spot? How is he going to treat that 5 spot with what we've seen? And I know that it's hard just to predict that, but you know the kind of guys that he's going after, Frederico, and it was the other guy that's still out there. I just saw his Baba Miller. So what do you think the 5 spot will look like for Indiana?
Well, I think what you do is you set aside the price value that you want in a player. And you go
the
out
price
and find
value. That's funny that's where you have to start, and that's legit and the most accurate thing. But that's crazy that's the thing you have to do.
Well, you need to cap it, because obviously everybody has a certain allotment that they're able to go out and use. You need to cap each position as to what it is that you're willing to give toward that position. If the value starts to go a little bit higher than what you're used to, you got to be able to walk away. It's kind of the same in any negotiation that you have in life. When it comes to business, there's a cap there, and you want to negotiate as high as you can toward that cap. But once that cap is reached, you got to be able to walk away. So you got to set forth what that cap is for what you're willing to spend for that position, and find that, and then go find guys out there that are available, whether that's high school, whether that's in the portal, whether that's international. Go find guys that can fit the threshold as to what it is that you need from that team, whether it's being a bruiser, a rebounder, a guy who can finish at the rim, a guy who's switchable, a guy who blocks shots, a rim protector. Whatever it is that you want to value within that position, go out and find guys that fit that criteria, engage them, and see where kind of things land as to how you're able to kind of build what it is that you're looking for. There are a few guys that are out there, but also, too, talking with coaches throughout the entire process leading into the portal, going through the portal, and where things are at right now. The point guard and the 5 position are the 2 most scarce spots out there. Guys that actually have stats at the 5 position that are big enough to be able to compete at the Power 5 level, P4 level now, I guess. Those are scarce in this portal. So their values are going to be a little bit higher because you're not able to find more of them. Now, all of a sudden, that a lot of them have already committed, these last couple left are still going to have values that go high, high, high. So being able to identify guys that fit what you want within the parameters of what you're able to go out and do.
The ability to walk away. I'm going to nickname that you Josh Heupel-it. Josh Heupel-it, baby.
We saw that play out in real time. Shout out to Pete Nakos for being all over that and getting that one right. But yeah, no, we saw that one be able to play out in real time over the last couple of weeks.
How crazy! I mean, I've talked about it a lot, but the money. I'm going to assume it was his father. I shouldn't do that, but the way I understand, his father's had a big hand in it. There's somebody in his father's ear, but the money not only did his one son lose because of him, but then now with Madden, his brother, following him, Arkansas wants their $200,000 back, baby.
It's a college sports is a business. College sports is a business, and we're starting to see stuff that we see in the real world happen in real world business happening in college sports now.
The fives, I hate to jump around like the we have, but getting back to the five for Indiana, who of the guys that are left out there for that spot, who do you think? I mean, I mentioned Baba Miller, which I don't know how much of a real reality that is, but Federico, I know there was some mention of him, and did he go to Texas A&M, or is that still not happened? Is he still available?
I don't think it's anything's finalized yet.
Who are some of the guys that are still available? You talk about them being, I mean, they're like in football, it's the offensive linemen, a good, solid offensive lineman, buddy. They're scarce.
Yeah, I think the old adage is guards win in March Madness. I think we're starting to see that while guards kind of do the stuff, the value of the big. Kind of look at what Florida did this year. Walter Clayton was the one that made all the shots, got all the big accolades and all that type of stuff. But they had four centers, four guys, and Micah Hangleton, Alex Condon, Ruben Chinleu, and Thomas Howell that were able to come in at any point in the game and play big minutes and make things happen. I think what you're seeing now is that teams that win in March are centered around big guys. Even look 2 years ago when it was Zach Edey and Donovan Clingan in the championship. This past year with Houston and Florida, big men, just a stable of big men who are physical, who are able to win at their place at the point, win in their area, is the central key. So I say all that's a very long-winded way to say the value of the big man. Teams that already have them in place don't want to lose them. That's the starting point of every I don't want to call it a negotiation, but that's the starting point of every roster build in the offseason is making sure that you have the big in place. The ones that do enter the transfer portal, as you see, they go very quickly. So at this point in time, with the transfer portal already closed 5 weeks in, there aren't very many guys out there in the transfer portal who have seen collegiate success already, who have stats. Baba Miller's one, as you said. Federico has had some success in college as well. But there are very scarce things, which is another reason as to why we're seeing a whole bunch of international players coming over. I think this is an unprecedented amount of international guys that we're seeing enter the college ranks this year, not only because those guys are seeing they're able to make more money in the United States playing than they are professionally overseas, but the transfer portal was so scarce with talent of guys that are proven that a lot of coaches are going overseas to kind of find guys that they feel can fill that void.
And you mentioned starting. You kind of start with the position there. It's where Indiana would end. They have everything else in place, and that's the last thing that they have to do now. How is it harder now that that's the last piece you have to add?
Well, it all comes to the value of the place. How much do you have set aside to be able to put forth value-wise toward that position? If you already have 10 players on your roster filled out, you have to think that you're pretty close to your spend when it comes to what you have set aside for the team. So looking at that, I mean, I do think they already have a big guy in place that's very interesting in Reed Bailey. Reed Bailey is a more skilled guy. He's not your traditional back to the basket guy. You're not going to see him do what Donovan Clingan and Zach Edey did, all that type of stuff. What you are going to be able to see is him create a mismatch. He's going to be able to drag an opposing guy out to the perimeter and make a play. He's going to be able to create an offensive situation for his team within his area with a mismatch against a more traditional type of big man. Now, if they're able to get a bruiser, if they're able to get a rim protector, if they're able to get somebody who can be a vertical rim spacer from the dunker spot or as a roll man, that's just icing on the cake. You can never have too many bigs. You can never have even developmental type bigs. You can just never have too many 6'10 plus on your roster. So it's just going to be very interesting to see the names that pop up and how they close this team out, because right now they have a great foundation of a possibly exciting team.
Yeah, and it reminds me a lot of how Purdue is constructed at the moment. I know that they have those big monsters that they always have, but they were not a part of the offense last year, or they were not a part of the game for the most part, and it's not a part of the core that we're probably going to see next year. This is going to be a very similar type of roster against each other. And I'm not saying the styles will be the same, but the roster builds are going to be similar. For right now, I know the painter always finds these 8'9" guys someplace, but as of right now, when you've got Trey Kaufman-Renn as your centerpiece for the most part, he's their guy down low, and he's what, 6'8".
Yeah, well, what Purdue was able to do last year was obviously spread the floor, Lawyer and stuff being able to 3-point threats that you can't leave, you got to stay contact with, but they drew the high pick and roll. With Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn, which opened up a ton of space because it drew the opposing five-man out of the paint. And you would get him caught up in the pick-and-roll situation, and it would have Trey Kaufman-Renn having just a ton of space to operate, trying to get downhill off the pick-and-roll, where you have Braden Smith trying to snake the screen or navigate through the screen and find an open spot as to whether or not you come towards Smith or you get the dive man with Trey Kaufman-Renn. So playing with spacing in that manner, as you said, Trey Kaufman-Renn being 6'8", maybe 6'9" at the max, not a rim protector necessarily per se either. They were able to find the spacing on the floor to be able to create advantages still on the offensive end.
Jamie Shaw from On3, National Basketball Recruiting. Man, we always appreciate you, brother. It is always a fun conversation, and look forward to doing it again soon. I'm glad to see you're outside enjoying the fresh outside. Don't know if it's going to rain today where you are, because I know we're expecting storms.
It is beautiful outside today. We got it right now. I'm sitting outside on my porch. It's about 65, 70 degrees or so. Probably going to get up to about 82. No rain in the forecast yet, but hopefully, knock on wood, it stays away.
Perfect. Get out, wait, brother. I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy Derby weekend, by the way.
Jim, my man, I always appreciate it. Y'all doing such a great job, and I can't wait to see what the season brings.
Hey, make sure you go to On3, whether at thehoosier.com, and get signed up, get a subscription there, because that is where you can find the great breaking stories from Jamie Shaw, Joe Tipton, and the rest of the crew. You guys are killing it, by the way. On3 has just absolutely killed it this recruiting season, especially.
The portal season is our Super Bowl, so we take the portal season very serious. We spend months in advance trying to lead up to it, and I think we've done a very good job so far. Also, with the help of our team sites, our team sites are very on board with the pulse of what's going on. The Hoosier.com being one of those as well. Very in tune with what's going on, both on the recruiting side of things and within the team construct and stuff with relationships and everything too. So everybody that's listening, I'm sure you already do. Make sure you subscribe to the Hoosier.com, but also subscribe to On3. You get every team site there available. I think we have 30 of them right now, along with the national stuff when it comes to Steve Wiltfong, Joe Tipton, guys that are completely at the top of their profession. So it's well worth the little amount of money that you get to put into it.
Absolutely. Alec Lasley and crew doing a tremendous job over at Hoosier.com as well. And combined with On3, I find myself just reading. I'm like, damn it, I got stuff to do. I got to stop for a while.
It's a rabbit hole, man. You read one and then the next one pops up. You're like, oh gosh. It's
filled with information. Jamie Shaw, appreciate you, my friend.
Jim, thank you.
You betcha, brother. Jamie Shaw from On3 joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Hello, everyone. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you, as always, for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com On3. Now with On3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football, Pete Nakos, Jamie Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side. And the local coverage from Alec Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there, sign up today.